You can't help but be proud to call this country home. But for Joe Biden, it's been the land of opportunism, not opportunity. As a career prosecutor and former Attorney General of Florida, I fought corruption, and I know what it looks like, whether it's done by people wearing pinstripe suits or orange jumpsuits. At the Democrats' convention, we were told to look at Joe Biden as the model of integrity. But when you look at his 47-year career in politics, the people who benefited are his family members, not the American people. Let's take a closer look. We all know about Joe's son, Hunter Biden. A corrupt Ukrainian oligarch put Hunter on the board of his gas company, even though he had no experience in Ukraine or in the energy sector. None. Yet he was paid millions to do nothing. He only had one qualification that mattered. He was the son of the man in charge of distributing U.S. aid to Ukraine. And recently reported information revealed that a few months after Hunter Biden joined that corrupt company's board, the Obama-Biden State Department began doing business with them, even when it remained under investigation for corruption. And it gets worse. That very same company was being investigated by a Ukrainian prosecutor. Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States, threatened to withhold aid to Ukraine unless that same prosecutor was fired. And then he was fired. Hunter only resigned from that board just before his dad announced his campaign for president. Now let's talk about China. Fact. Joe Biden flew to China on Air Force Two with Hunter along for the ride. They said he was just there as a family member, but we know that's untrue. In Beijing, Hunter didn't just go sightseeing. He had meetings with his Chinese bank partners. Hunter even arranged for his dad to meet with one of the partners. 10 days later, those Chinese communist bankers approved millions to go to Hunter's firm. And those bankers work for the Chinese Communist Party, which oppresses their people, cheated American workers for decades, and covered up a deadly virus. To this day, Hunter controls a 10% stake in that firm. And Joe Biden's done more than look the other way on China. He said, "The Chinese aren't our competition. Come on, man, they're not bad folks." Come on, Joe. Talk to the folks in Middle America who lost countless jobs to China while your son was getting rich with them. But there's more. Fact. There have been numerous press reports that have shown other close Biden family members benefited from Joe's 47-year political career. Joe Biden was point person on Iraq. The president of a construction firm met with Biden's team in the White House, and then who did they hire to build thousands of houses in Iraq? Joe Biden's close family member, who, you guessed it, had no experience in the industry and no experience in Iraq. A company official bragged that it helps to have a family member, the vice president, as partner. The family member put it more bluntly by saying, "There's a line of 747s filled with cash ready to invest." Now let's follow the money down south. Again, as reported in the press, yet another close family member of Joe's set his sights on Costa Rica and Jamaica, where millions of dollars flowed from the Obama-Biden administration in taxpayer-backed loans to projects linked to, yes, that same family member. These aren't isolated incidents. It is a deliberate pattern of conduct. And that's just what he did as vice president. Imagine what he'd do as president. How many American families would be allowed to get away with this? Why should there be one standard for the elite political class and another set of rules for the rest of us? When millions of Americans voted for Donald Trump, they knew he'd be different, and he is. He's a tough, no-nonsense outsider who can't be bought or intimidated. He won't even take a paycheck from the American people. He donates his paycheck to charities across this country. Democrats have been lecturing America about integrity for 4 years, while their nominee has been writing the textbook on abuse of power for 40 years. If they want to make this election a choice between who's saving America and who's swindling America, bring it on. Joe says he'll build back better. Yeah, build the Bidens back better. Our president is in this to build a safer, better, and stronger America, and he will finish what he started to keep this a real land of opportunity for everyone. If you want to check your voting status, secure your ballot, or register to vote, text VOTE to 88022. Remember, the best is yet to come. You heard our answer. Chief Justice, Senators. Senators, you heard our answer regarding that yesterday, but it is very interesting that he said he never spoke to his son about overseas dealings. His son said different things. Joe Biden was the point man for Ukraine, investigating, at the time, Ukrainians were a corrupt company, Burisma, and Zlochevsky, its owner, an oligarch who, by all media accounts we've discussed, was extremely corrupt. Hunter Biden is paid $83,000 a month to sit on that board with no experience in energy, no experience in the Ukraine, doesn't speak the language, and we clearly know that he had a very fancy job description, and he did none of those things. He attended 1 or 2 board meetings, one in Monaco, and then he went on a fishing trip with Joe Biden's family in Norway. The entire time, Joe Biden knows that this oligarch is corrupt. Everyone knows that. There are news reports everywhere. No one will dispute that. In fact, it raised eyebrows worldwide. But the vice president, by his account, never once asked his son to leave the board. We wouldn't be sitting here if he did. He never asked his son to leave the board. Instead, he started investigating the prosecutor who was going after Burisma and this corrupt oligarch who they say was corrupt even by oligarch standards, who had fled the country, living in Monaco. He does not ask him to leave the board. He does the opposite. In 2015, what does he do? We know by reports he has close contact with President Poroshenko. He travels to Ukraine twice. He links the aid to the firing. Same thing in 2016 at a White House meeting. Links the aid to the firing of the prosecutor. Calls him 4 times in the 8 days up to leading to the prosecutor. The prosecutor investigating Hunter Biden, yet he never says that. All cases closed. Days before Biden leaves office, he jokes to Poroshenko that he may have to call him every couple weeks to check in. Hunter Biden stays on that board for 3 years. 3 years. Then we hear the video of Joe Biden bragging about firing the prosecutor, linking it to aid. Then we have the 6-minute phone call.
Mr. Chief Justice. Oh, there's the
Oh,
other
I'm
half.
sorry. The House managers have 2.5 minutes.
Mr. Chief Justice, and to our senators. Senators, thank you so much for that question. I know you have asked about a conversation between a father and his son. And what I can tell you, probably like just about everybody in this chamber, there are probably some conversations that I can't repeat to you about my conversations with my son. So I don't know the answer to your question, Senator, what that exact conversation was. But what I can tell you is this. If we are serious about why we are here, and I have no reason to doubt that we are, if we are serious about seeking the truth, because the truth matters, not just for those who have paid the price in our history to form a more perfect union and protect our democracy, but it's important for our future. And in this case, if we're serious about that, then I can tell you this, that we are serious then about hearing from fact witnesses. Looking at the Bidens, no matter how many times we call their name, we have no evidence to point to the fact that either Biden has anything at all to tell us about the president shaking down a foreign power to help him cheat in the next election, the precious election, trying to steal each individual in this country's vote. I don't believe either Biden has any information about that, but let me tell you who I think does. Maybe we should call Ambassador Bolton. If we're serious about the truth, maybe we should call him because we have a good idea about what he might say. Or what about Mr. Mulvaney, who had day-to-day contact with the principal in our investigation, the President of the United States? That's not good enough. Well, what about, the question was asked about when did we know? Or when did the President first put the hold on? Well, we do have reports that say on June 19th of 2019, Mr. Blair personally instructed the director of OMB to hold up security assistance from Ukraine over a month before the infamous July 25th call. So,
Thank you, Mrs. Manager
thank you,
Demings.
Mr. Chief Justice.